Tommy fell in love. See Angelica making a macaroni sculpture of herself. Angelica explains she's making it as a Mother's Day present for her mom. After having Mother's Day explained to them by Angelica, Tommy and the twins set out finding presents for their moms. Soon, Chaz and Chuckie Finster arrive, and Chuckie goes out to play with his friends. Chaz gives Dee Dee a box of his wife's old belongings, and he asks her to keep it safe, fearing that Chuckie might find it. Chaz explains to Dee Dee that Chuckie has been getting into stuff lately. Dee Dee tries suggesting that Chaz talk to Chuckie about the box and its contents, but agrees to keep it safe and puts it in the entryway closet. Chuckie joins his friends in their search for Mother's Day presents, but doesn't know who he would give one to. The other babies remember that Chuckie doesn't have a mom and ask why. Chuckie tells them simply that he doesn't know. He just doesn't have one. During their search for presents, Tommy and the twins start reminiscing about their favorite memories of their moms. Bill and Merle will remember the best gift they ever gave their mom, their first laugh. She recalled their mom was breastfeeding them when they were infants. Tommy remembers the first time he saw his mom. He was in an incubator, scared and alone. His mom came and held his hand, and he didn't feel scared or alone anymore. Chuckie admits to his friends his dreams about having a mom. One dream he had is that he and his mom were outside in the backyard, and Chuckie wasn't even scared of a butterfly that was flying around. Tommy and the twins decide to help Chuckie find a mom. First trying with Spike, then Lil. Both of them are terrible. Chuckie says Lil is only slightly better than Spike. Angelica decides to be his mom, but only so Chuckie will finish the macaroni statue, allowing her to lay around instead of working on it. Angelica renames Chuckie Blaine, explaining that Chuckie is a dumb name, while Blaine is a TV name. Meanwhile, Dee Dee is planning to take her own mother, Minka, to her favorite health spa for Mother's Day, which features different muds from around the world to bathe in. Betty approves of her choice as Stu comes in with a Mother's Day machine that will make breakfast in bed for Dee Dee. Betty points out that it's nearly lunchtime, but Dee Dee gets into bed anyway. Unfortunately, Stu's machine breaks down and splatters a smoothie all over the bedroom, which it then sort of cleans up. Stu and Betty head downstairs to repair it, while Dee Dee and Minka leave for their health spa. Downstairs, Betty sees the program Stu created for the machine, and she decides to reprogram it with her own ideas of what being a mother is about, while Stu tries physical repairs on his invention. Back outside, Angelica orders Blaine, Chuckie, to get a specific dandelion for her as a finishing touch of the macaroni head. However, Chuckie is horrified when he sees that there's a bee on that particular dandelion. Tommy tries to find out what is wrong. Chuckie tells him that the flower he has to pick has a bee on it. And though Tommy points out to Chuckie that the flowers look the same, Chuckie still won't give in. Tommy confronts Angelica about Chuckie trying to get the flower with the bee on it, causing her a big cry, so Chuckie will get her the dandelion. Chuckie picks the dandelion and is chased all over the yard by the bee and still malfunctioning Mother's Day invention. Stu and his invention end up in a mud puddle by the tree. The dandelion Chuckie picked was wrecked in the chase. When Angelica finds out, she says it's no longer a flower but a green stick with a thing on top. She yells at Chuckie, who accidentally knocks over her macaroni head, breaking it. Angelica banishes the gang to a lifetime out of the closet by the front door and informs Chuckie she's no longer his mom because of his actions. Inside the closet, Chuckie feels sad because he's back to having no mom, but the other babies point out that Angelica as a mom was far worse than Spike and Lil. Point out a mom who would love him no matter what and mention all the things a good mom does. Chuckie says his dad does all these things and decides his dad is also a mom. Coming to that conclusion, he'll decide he'll give Chaz a present. While looking for potential presents inside the closet, the gang finds a box Chaz left. It contains a little shovel, a book with flowers inside of it, a photo of a young woman. Chuckie is amazed because it's the same woman he dreams about and decides he'll give it to his dad. Charlotte arrives at Dee Dee and Stu's to pick up Angelica. Angelica presents the remains of her macaroni head and unhappily explains the babies wrecked her present. Charlotte, however, likes it and calls it deconstructionist. Meanwhile, Betty finishes updating the invention's programming, which causes it to malfunction even more. The machine vacuums up mud and heads back into the house towards the front door. It turns out Dee Dee and Minka have just arrived back home, with Minka thoroughly unimpressed by the spa. As soon as they walk into the front door, the device explodes, splattering mud everywhere. Dee begins to cry and explains she wanted to give her mom something she'd like. Minka hugs Dee Dee and tells her that is something she does like, and Dee Dee smiles. Stu appears moments later and hands Dee Dee a dandelion, which amuses her. Moments later, Bill and Lil fall out of the closet, fighting over a plunger. When they see Betty, they hand it to her. Tommy gives Dee Dee his own dandelion, causing her to remark that she's received a flower from both her men. Chaz arrives and sees Chuckie holding something. When Chaz asks what it is, Chuckie holds out the photo and everyone is silent. Chaz becomes uncomfortable and accepts the photo, telling Chuckie he'll be sure to put it somewhere safe. Chuckie is hurt and confused by Chaz's reaction because he thought it was a nice picture. Chaz goes to put the picture back in the box, but Dee Dee stops him and says that he ought to share these things with Chuckie. Chaz finally admits he's afraid that Chuckie will miss her, like he does, but Dee Dee says they can miss her together. Realizing it's better than having Chuckie forget his mother, Chaz looks back to Chuckie and kneels down at the photo. He tells Chuckie the woman in the photo is actually his mother, Melinda Finster. In their own backyard, Chaz goes through the contents of the box with Chuckie. He explains Melinda loved the outdoors and flowers, and painted almost everything in their backyard. Chaz tells Chuckie that she loves to spend time with Chuckie, revealing the dream that Chuckie has had about having a mom. Larry's in the garden and Melinda encourages him not be scared of a butterfly. It's actually a genuine memory of his mother, and most likely his favorite. Sadly, Melinda became terminally ill and eventually passed away. But Chaz shows Chuckie a diary that Melinda started keeping when she was in the hospital and reveals the very last thing she had written and was a poem she had written for Chuckie. Chaz reads it aloud to him. Afterwards, Chaz places the photo and poem in a double frame, which he now keeps openly in their living room. The next time his friends are over, Chuckie happily tells him he does have a mom, that she's in all the good things outside, showing that he understands the poem she wrote for him to a certain extent at least.